By the way, is in the Final Four. Round of applause for them. I see it. All right. We're all Midwest fans this week. We're going to take down UConn. That's not going to be a problem at all. Today's event is co-hosted by the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, the University of Illinois Extension, and the Grain and Feed Association of Illinois. I'm John Coppert. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Grain Elevator and Processor Society, GEEPS. Now, if you're one of the attendees that's online and you're having technical problems during the demonstration or at any point, please send a private chat to Salah Isa. Should you be disconnected and have any problems at all, you can email grainsafety2010@gmail.com. That's grainsafety2010@gmail.com. Now, grain handling is essential to all of agriculture. But as all of us know, it can be dangerous, very dangerous. Stand Up for Grain Safety Week, we come together to focus on something that matters to all of us, safety and grain handling. This year's theme is Learn. Listen, explain, ask, remember, and notify. The LEARN acronym embodies the purpose behind Stand Up for Grain Safety Week. Learning is both active and interactive. Each word represents the action and interaction necessary to increase awareness, knowledge, and practices necessary to ensure a safe workplace. We're kicking off the event with live safety demonstrations, showcasing essential practices for everyone involved in grain handling, and we're inviting everyone to learn today and throughout the week. The Grain Handling Safety Council and GEEPS, along with industry partners, are offering free daily virtual learning sessions. These sessions are designed to provide practical, life-saving knowledge for those working in agriculture-related industries. In addition to the standard virtual trainings, we're excited to offer bonus sessions in Spanish to make certain that knowledge is accessible to everyone throughout the grain industry. If you haven't registered yet, that's not a problem. You can still sign up. Visit the following website, standupforgrainsafety.org. That's standupforgrainsafety.org to reserve your spot. Together we can make grain handling safer for everyone. Let's stand up for grain safety and let's learn together. Stand Up for Grain Safety Week is a collaboration between the U.S. Department of Labor's OSHA, the Grain Handling Safety Council, and GEEPS, along with the National Grain and Feed Association. Now, before we get into today's program and launch this week's Stand Up for Grain Safety, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank the sponsors, because absent sponsors, an event like this isn't possible. So our partners include, again, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, along with the University of Illinois Extension, along with industry partners ADM, Bartlett Grain, Central States Center for Agriculture Safety and Health, Central Valley Agriculture, Champaign County Farm Bureau, C.L. Jones Consulting LLC, the Grain and Feed Association of Illinois, Grain Journal, Illinois Fire Services Institute, Kansas State University, Lamar Advertising, Safe Electricity, and the University of Nebraska Medical Center at University of Nebraska, along with University of Nebraska, Nebraska Extension in Lincoln. Throughout today's in-person and hybrid demonstrations, we'd like to hear from you, as well as our online guests. Now, there are several ways to be actively involved and engaged. During the sessions today and throughout the week, there's going to be various polls that are going to pop up on your screen for those that are joining virtually. There's going to be after-session surveys, and there's also going to be chat sessions. We welcome folks to join the conversation in real time by joining us through the chat box, as well as those that are here in person to ask questions and make comments along the way. Now lastly, you also have the opportunity to speak with or speak directly to the presenters during the open mic time. So we're going to start things off by trying out a chat question. Those of you that are here in person, just kind of go along with it. But we're going to start off with a chat question to get the conversation started. So those that are joining virtually, we're going to have you utilize the chat box right now. It's always interesting to hear where our folks are from, because we not only have domestic folks joining us, but we have international folks joining us around the world. So the very first thing we'd like folks to do is in the chat box, go ahead and tell us where you're from. And if you can do that, I'm going to ask some folks here. How many of us are from the state of Illinois, if we're here in person? Good. Who do we have by show of hands from outside the state of Illinois? I think we've got Indiana. Do we have anybody from anywhere other than Illinois and Indiana? Where are you from, young man? Virginia. Oh, wow. Thanks for joining us today. Anybody else? Jeff Atkinson, CEO of Illinois Grain Feed Association, he's here with me. Jeff, where are we hearing that folks are from today?
Tennessee, Nebraska, Iowa, Idaho, New York, Montana, Georgia, Arkansas, Canada, Washington State, a lot of
wow.
Across country.
So all across North America, it's great to have folks with us. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to try one more thing. This time we're going to try a poll. This time, instead of telling us where you're from, we're going to ask you to click on your device. It's as easy as that. In this poll, what I'd like to hear from folks, especially again those joining online, is what's kind of the one thing that you're interested. Maybe that's more in the form of a question. But for those online, if you can use the chat box and let us know what's that one thing that you're really most interested in either hearing about or learning this week, we'd like to hear that as well. I'm going to call on a couple people that are here with us live. Butch Hendricks from Kokomo Grain over in Indiana. Butch, what's one thing that you'd like to hear or see this week?
I just kind of get up on the machine guarding, or the situations around it.
Good. So from Kokomo Grain in Indiana, machine guarding. What else in person? What would somebody like to hear this week? I've got some OSHA folks over here. What would you like to hear this week? Robotics. Very, very good. Maybe some AI incorporation into that at some point in that conversation. Very good. Jeff, are we getting any responses in line to what folks are looking forward to hearing?
Safety, technology, electrical safety.
Very good.
Yep.
Very good. Awesome. Hey, thanks everybody for participating. And thanks for those in person that are willing to participate as well. At this point, it's my honor and privilege to introduce to someone that it's kind of interesting this week. For those of you that know me very well, you know that I spent 20 years as the executive director of the National Corn to Ethanol Research Center, located down on the campus of Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville, Illinois. Well, one of my board members during the time that I was there was always the dean of the College of Aces here from University of Illinois. So it's kind of interesting, even though I've changed business cards and paychecks and that sort of thing, I'm having the opportunity today to be reunited with one of my former board members. So at this time, it really is my honor and privilege to introduce Dean Bolero, the Dean of the College of Agriculture, Consumer, and Environmental Sciences here at the University of Illinois. Dean Bolero,
thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. This is a great weekend for Illinois. Hopefully we'll repeat next weekend, so we'll talk a lot about that. But I want to welcome you here. Seen a lot of orange hats, and I couldn't recognize certain people wearing those orange hats and safety hats. You need to return them at some point, right? Because I tried to take one once, and they stopped me at the exit of this place. So they're really cute, but you need to give them back. So it's a pleasure to welcome you, both those here in person and those joining us online, to the kickoff of the Stand Up for Grain Safety Week. This is a really great great week for us and very supported. I want to thank John. I want to thank Daniel, Dr. Isa, and all of our partners in the Grain Handling Safety Coalition and the OSHA Alliance for their leadership. This collaboration between industry, academia, and government is exactly what is meaningful to us and for everyone. I think really we need to every week remind ourselves in the college that we are a land grant, and for us impact is what is all this about. So it's not only what we do in the classroom and in the labs, but really this is what we bring to the public and the impact that we have with the public. So this partnership between the college extension and all these organizations is what we really treasure. Grain handling remains one of the most hazardous areas in agriculture. The risk, engulfment, dust explosions, entanglement, falls, and electrical hazards are real. And while we made progress, serious incidents still occur. And that's why this work really matters to us. This week is built around a simple but powerful idea that John already mentioned. Every worker should go home safe at the end of the day. The learn theme, listen, explain, ask, remember, and notify, reminds us that safety requires awareness, communication, and action. Today's hands-on demonstration helped turn the awareness into practical knowledge that can prevent injury and save lives. At the University of Illinois, the College Basis, and Illinois Extension, we're proud to support efforts like this. Safety is fundamental to a strong and sustainable agricultural systems. And thank you very much for being here, for your commitment to safety, and for standing up for grain safety. And I hope you have a tremendous program and ask a lot of questions. And from here, we can continue to grow the conscience of safety on this campus and across the country. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Dean Barrow. Thank you. Let's have a round of applause for Dean Barrow. Thank you so much. So next up, it's also my honor and privilege to introduce Brian Bothus. I don't know, somebody either set me up for a reunion today or I'm getting ready to be roasted or something, because just like Dean Barrow served on my board of directors at my previous employer, Brian Bothus, that's getting ready to join us, his father's name is Dr. Rodney Bothus. Dr. Rodney Bothus was my predecessor at the National Corn to Ethanol Research Center. So Jeff Atkinson of Grain and Feed, again, I don't know if this is a setup or what the heck is happening here today, but it's like a reunion. I don't know what's coming next. But as we get started on our safety conversation, let's remember our rights and our responsibilities as both employees and employers. And I want to repeat that as well. Our rights and our responsibilities as both employees and employers. I think one part of that sometimes can get left out in the shuffle. As an employer, whether you fall under OSHA enforcement or not, you're still responsible for providing a work environment free of known hazards. Employees, though, have a right to a safe and healthy work environment without fear of retaliation. Let's all remember that important phrase, safe and healthy workplace, this week as we talk about the different hazards and challenges that we face. With that, I'd like to introduce Brian Bothus from the Compliance Assistant Specialist with the Peoria area of OSHA. Brian, good morning. Good morning.
And thank you. I'd like to start off by simply introducing a short video from the Assistant Secretary, David Keeling.
Less than a minute. That's all it takes for flowing grain to engulf a worker, and for a normal work day to turn into an emergency. Every year across the U.S., workers are seriously or fatally injured inside grain bins. These are fathers, mothers, neighbors, people who showed up to do a job and never made it home. But these incidents are preventable. Grain handling safety starts with awareness. Actions like proper bin entry procedures, using fall protection every time, and having emergency plans can help save lives. Because safety isn't a one-time conversation. It's something we commit to every single day. During Stand Up for Grain Safety Week, even a small action matters. Host a training session, share some tips, start the conversation, and look out for people doing the work. Because when safety is a priority, every worker gets to go home safe at the end of the day.
All right. I would like to thank the Grain Handling Safety Coalition, the National Grain and Feed Association, the Grain Elevator and Processing Society, and the University of Illinois for all your work that went into this grain stand-up event today and for this week's events. Thank you to everyone for being here today, participating, and your online participation. I would also like to thank the Grain and Feed Association of Illinois, and in particular, John Lee. We've worked for more than 20 years having a partnership and/or alliance with the OSHA offices in the state of Illinois, simply trying to eliminate workplace hazards and improve safety and health programs. OSHA recently also started an agency OSHA Cares initiative, focusing on meeting OSHA requirements and building more successful safety and health programs. The events this week are right in line with that new initiative. OSHA is also encouraging companies to use the new Safety Champions program. This can be used to evaluate your existing safety and health program and help provide a path for adopting best practices. There's still work to be done to prevent engulfment hazards, to prevent auger entanglements, to make sure we don't have combustible dust explosions, to prevent those struck by injuries, falls, and electrocutions. We recognize these as known hazards in the industry, and they receive OSHA's attention because of those injuries that still occur. I want to encourage every site to develop effective engineering controls, safe work practices, housekeeping efforts that reduce risk, mechanical integrity programs that prevent upset conditions, and systems to manage both our contractors and changes, because OSHA cares. Please share your experience today back at your facility and with the sites you come in contact with, because it's not a 1 week to prevent injuries. We need that activity each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Let's have a round of applause for Brian. Rumor has it Brian's a short timer. I don't know. I think we're going to hear a little bit more about that later today. But Brian, you played a huge role in this industry, in this event. So we thank you. Well, now it's time to prepare for our first demonstration. But before we do that, let me introduce you to the facility in a short video that I think we're now going to play.
All right, for the in-person people, if the front row could stand and everyone's standing, you're going to walk with me to the other room for the demos. And then students, if you could pick up the front row chairs and put them in.
Welcome, I'm Jonathan Mosley. I'm the director of the Animal Sciences Farms and Research Centers. Today we're out at the Feed Technology Center to take a look at some of the equipment that we got donated to help us get this facility up and going this year.
Behind me here we have our GEM bagging system. So this was donated by GEM, and what it all is basically a bagging hopper with a scale, which is also attached to a Union Special sewing machine. And that will then come down 2 conveyors and come to our GEM robot, which will palletize all of our bag diets. So we're very fortunate that Buhler was willing to donate most of our processing equipment here. So here we have a 5-ton-per-hour belt drive pellet mill from Buhler, which is a really large improvement over what was at the old Animal Science feed mill, where we had a pellet line, but it was not functioning for quite some time. Also behind me, we have a 4,400-pound paddle mixer, as well as a multi-impact Buhler hammer mill upstairs.
One of the safety components of the Feed Technology Center is 4B Components donated us some speed sensor switches to allow us to monitor the speed of all of our legs.
The University of Illinois is a global leader in research and teaching in the fields of animal nutrition, animal science, feedstuff utilization, and feed and pet food manufacturing. And with the construction of the new state-of-the-art Feed Technology Center, it will allow the University of Illinois and the College of ACES to really accelerate scientific discovery in these areas. The animal science feed technology, the grain storage, and the processing techniques that are required for that. And so some of those processing techniques include pelleting, crumbling, and extrusion. And what this ultimately does is actually, the aim is to improve the efficiencies and the sustainability in the food production processes. And then the Feed Technology Center and those processing capabilities, what that's really going to allow is for us to really expand the research, teaching, and even the outreach programs that we have. And ultimately what that does is allow us to really create groundbreaking and transformative research initiative opportunities.
Again, we'd like to thank all of our donors that have helped us get to where we are today. As you can see, we've got some really state-of-the-art equipment, and we're anxious to see how this can play into the future for animal nutrition and the university as a whole.
Okay, welcome back everybody. For our first demonstration today, we have John Lee, the Director of Safety, Health, Environmental Services at the Grain and Feed Association of Illinois. So John, we'll go ahead and we're gonna turn things over to you.
Okay,
Thank you,
John. All right, I'm gonna talk about machine guarding. Very important topic. It's everywhere. You have it at your house. Anybody who has a lawnmower has a shield at least on their mower. They have an interlock device on the handle, a push mower. If you let go of it, it quits. If you have a table saw at home. And then of course, if you have a riding lawnmower, you have the pressure sensor on the sensor on the seat. So they're everywhere. And then of course, in the industry, it's everywhere also. As I encourage you, as you go around the mill today, there's a lot of guards here, a lot of good ones. This place was done correct. Shaft ends are guarded well. Fixed guards are good. Machine guarding for compliance-wise for safety people, and I think most people agree with me on this, safety people, is machine guarding is the low-hanging fruit of safety. It's easy to design a guard to make it and work well. The problem is you take the human factor out of that. The problem is when that guard comes off for maintenance, it may not get back on. That's one of the problems with machine guarding. But guarding it, making the guards is low-hanging fruit. And one thing to keep in mind is manufacturers do not have to guard anything. So when you buy a guard from a manufacturer on a machine or buy a machine, it may not be fully OSHA compliant. So they need to be audited. Most of them are for liability reasons, but sometimes there's problems with them. Guards, basically, essentially with machine guarding, if it moves and can cause injury, it's got to be guarded, no matter what it is, anything. And the guards should prevent workers' hands from going around, under, through, or over the machine. Auto principle, that was a National Safety Council thing years ago. This is a pillow block guard for a bearing and a shaft. It bolts to the gear over the gearbox. I think this one came from, and it prevents your hands from going over it because it's got a back on. It's up against the gearbox. You can't go through it. You can't go under it. You can't go over it. It has knockouts for the grease zerks and different things. But this is a really good example of a fixed guard. The industries that make equipment have gotten a lot better at making fixed guards. This one's really nice, and a lot of the V-belt guards are getting better. But one of the areas on V-belt guards to watch for is the adjustment slot on the back of them. Even real nice ones, sometimes they're not fully guarded. The OSHA standards for machine guarding are 1910, 212 to 219. The ones that really affect the grain and agriculture are abrasive wheels for maintenance for millwrights and for mechanical transmission. I mean, how much mechanical transmission does a grain facility have or a feed mill? Everything, all your belt drives, your shaft drives, everything like that. So, and also there's consensus standards. ANSI has rules, and for the grain industry, the ASABE, ASABE, it's the American Society of Agriculture and Biological Engineers. They have rules that's set for guarding. But I just wanted to show some examples of different guards that you run into, and one of them is angle grinders. The shield, this one is loose. This is probably the most dangerous tool in your shop, is an angle grinder. And these guards should not go more than 90 degrees from where they start from, so it doesn't. This one's actually loose. Many times these come off and never get put back on, unfortunately. And some manufacturers aren't as good as others. I don't want to call any manufacturers out. You might know by what I'm holding in my hand here by the color, but I don't think this one is as good as the red one here. This one comes up, as you notice, it has more coverage. And this one is actually indexed, so you can index it to certain spots that you want it. So if you're cutting something or grinding something, it's like this. If that wheel would ever explode, it deflects the objects away from you. So these shields are excellent. They need to be on there. Unfortunately, they get taken off a lot, and then you can guard on the bottom part of it. And then another big problem, so here's one with it removed with a cutting wheel on it. And they also make these, this type of guard here is only for a grinder, and this is what comes on them. But they make a guard that is enclosed for cutting wheels like this. It actually comes, it's flat here too. So if it prevent the pieces of the grinding wheel from coming out also, and it prevents you from getting in contact with it. I guess that's it on that. Another huge problem with angle grinders is, there's different sizes. These are 4.5-inch grinder wheels. These are 7-inch wheels. They make 9-inch wheels. I believe they make 11-inch grinding wheels. The problem is the arbor for the 7-inch grinder fits on the 4.5-inch grinder, so the bigger wheels will fit on there. Well, once you do that, then the shields will not fit if you put the bigger wheel in here. And these type grinders spin between 10 and 12,000 RPMs, and it says right on this wheel, 8,600 RPMs maximum. So you're already quite a bit over your design limits of this. Wheels, and these explode. If you're ever bored sometime, look up angle grinder accidents, Google images. Don't do it before lunch though, or after lunch. I get back. It's pretty gross. Other types of guards that you run into, might have it at work or your house. This is an old electric one. Most everybody's using cordless nowadays. This is a self-adjusting guard. So when you're cutting the material, this one's actually broken. It shouldn't do that. You cut into it and it only exposes part of the blade that needs to be, and then it springs back. Well, many times this guard gets in the way, and carpenters would jam a piece of like a wedge in here or a shim, and then they'd be cutting, and then this thing wouldn't drop back like that, and they'd run it into their thigh. So that's a good example of a self-adjusting guard. Other, of course, power transmission would be, shaft drive, PTOs. That's a huge issue. Like this one here, this has a pretty good, can I come over here? This has a good shield on it, like you're supposed to have for the PTO. One of the problems is with the PTO shafts is the knuckle and the coupler here doesn't always get guarded, right? And sometimes the master shield on the tractor gets knocked off. That's also considered a guard. Back on this one, shaft ends on machines is another issue to deal with. A shaft end, if it's smooth, it can stick out half the diameter and it's still OSHA compliant. But if it's rough like this one is, most of you probably can't see it from here. Maybe you can on the camera. This one is not okay because it has set screws and a bolt, so it's not smooth anymore. But they have to be smooth. They can stick out half the diameter. That's another area that's you'll run into. And then, Jeff, how much time do I have? Am I good? 5 minutes? Another huge problem that we've dealt with here in Illinois, because I work in the commercial industry, since 2020, at the commercial grain industry, we've had 7 people step in sump holes in grain bins. And it's a requirement that you have to have these grates that go over the holes, the sump holes, to protect them, and they have to be in place and secured, and that's what these jam bolts do. But you're based on, the size of the grate spacing is based on how far down the conveyor is from the floor of the bin. So like in this one here, this was 2 1/8 spacing between the grates. So this grate here, if you from flat on the ground, the flat floor of the bin, down to 17.5 inches, this is legal. You can use this one. If it's less than less than that, it's not good enough. So it has to be at least 17.5 inches down, and that would be a screw conveyor, drag conveyor, or belt conveyor. Doesn't matter what kind of conveyor it is. This one would be good to, I forget the spacing on this. I think it's 3 1/4. This would be good down to 31.5 inches. From the floor to the conveyor. This one over here would also be good. This one's 6-inch squares. This would be good to from the floor to 31.5 inches. The problem with this one is it's still a trip hazard. So I personally would not like to see these in grain bins because you could still trip. One of the big problems is these grates. The smaller the grate gets, the more it plugs up. Employees don't want to use them, and that's a problem. So. But they have to be. If you're going to take this grate out, that unload conveyor has to be shut off. Whenever employees are in the bin, this has to be in place and secured if the unload conveyor is running. So what happens if you have many grain bins have the floor, the auger floor, or the floor of the bin, and then the auger is only like 3.5 inches down or less. What do you do then? You got a big problem. Because you're only allowed 5/8 of an inch if it's from the floor to 3.5 inches. So what can you do? I still got 5 minutes to go still? Okay. So here's one. You could, so this part here sits flush to the floor. This sits flush into the floor like this one would to this point here, and then the rest of it sits up proud of the floor. And then you could not get your fingers, would not go through the end. I didn't show that. It's 2-inch squares. And this actually flows, it actually will flow some grain pretty good. It won't do the pods very well, but it flows grain pretty well. Then, since it sets up proud, you could not get your fingers or hands into the conveyor underneath. One of the ways to check for guarding on the spacing, and by the way, that all these numbers I'm throwing at you, the 31.5 inches, the 17.5 inches, that comes from subpart 1910-217 subpart O for punch presses. And essentially what it says is the farther away you get from the danger zone, the bigger the guard opening on the guard can be. So this is one way to check for it. So if you, like for example, if you have a 3/4 inch expanded metal over a guard, you can be, this is 3/4 of an inch right here, and you set that on the object, your guard would need to be this high into the air for it to be compliant. So this is, some people call this the gotcha stick, OSHA gotcha stick. What else do we talk about? Guys, that's it. Come on over. We're going to show, this has U of I's, University of Illinois' robotic system here for bagging, for stacking bags. Has a photoelectric light curtain. Very, very sophisticated. I'm sorry, get out of your way here. We'll demonstrate how that works. 2 minutes. So you see it says red, it's red up on the light right there. So there's these yellow light curtains right here. So if I stick my arm in here, it quits. That's the photoelectric light. The whole thing stopped. Now Skylar has to restart it. So if a forklift would come in here without hitting this button, this light curtain stops it. And then if you would get closer than over here, it also should stop it. So pretty fancy stuff. That's the same type of technology you have on your garage doors at home. The electronic eyes, if the cat runs through there, it stops it. That's pretty much all I got. Yeah.
Very good. How about a round of applause for John.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That's definitely pretty cool technology. Okay, I'm going to keep John up here with me because what we're going to do next is we're going to open this up for questions. Jeff Atkinson, I'm going to give some time for the chat box to populate. Again, for all those that are joining virtually, please submit your questions in the chat box, and then when we open that up, Jeff will read those questions aloud and we'll get those addressed. But let's talk to the folks that are here joining us in person for a bit. So, John, I've actually got a question.
Sure.
Like on these, well, not only the grinders, but any of these devices that you showed, when a guard, if it has visible damage to it, repair or replace. What is like a rule of thumb just to utilize
You're
it?
much better off.
Is there one?
You're much better off to replace it with the whatever the OEM equipment was. Sometimes it was a homemade guard or custom-made guard by your maintenance people. I would recommend putting a new one on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's a minor repair, you could probably fix it too. But replacing it's much better.
Okay. Very good.
Yep.
You know, I'm sitting here. I'm looking at the PTO shaft. I don't know if the camera guy can see it very well, but especially those of us that are used to on the farm, I see some head nodding over here. How many times at best have we seen this protection guard cracked, if it's even there at all? I don't know how much of the farm audience we have joining us today, but John, talk about the importance of these people. Those of us that have a little bit of gray hair, we either have personal stories, personal experiences. I just saw Jeff Atkinson. I know what he just flagged. We've all seen it, where somebody gets close to this thing, and when they get close to it, they're fully clothed. A few seconds later, they might be missing an article of clothing. Has anybody ever seen that before? Hands better go up. No, they shouldn't go up, because it means we have seen it, right? Especially on the farm. Talk to us about the importance here, John. That's dangerous stuff.
It's very
right there.
critical. These are rotating at 1,000. A lot of them are 1,000 RPMs now.
Yeah.
And it would pull. If you got caught into it with your clothes, it'll pull you in there just milliseconds and wrap you up. Back in the day, they were completely unshielded, and then you'd really get wrapped up. There's all kinds of horrific stories where, don't want to gross anybody out, but their legs would get wrapped up. So if you're lucky, like John said, it rips your clothes off and you're in your underwear. If you're unlucky, it flings you around it, and you might be a bloody pulp flopping around on the running PTO. People have lost arms, legs, both arms. Very, very dangerous. People don't. The other thing, even if you had the shield, it's a best practice to stay away from it. Guard by location.
That's right.
That's another thing that I forgot to mention is guarding by location. OSHA, if you're 7 feet away from a moving part, you're okay. It's best to have an engineering way to keep your back 7 feet from it. But avoid those things. Never step over them. I've seen there horrific injuries happen doing that, and that happens fairly often, actually.
Far too often.
Very dangerous.
Jeff, we'll give the online another minute yet. Questions in person. Butch Hendricks, I know you've got a question with Kokomo Grain. You said in the introduction, one of the things that you were interested to hear was about guards. Thoughts, questions for John?
More stories than anything. We just had a lot of people coming into our facilities with grinders. It's been an ongoing problem.
It could be contractors might bring things like this in. And by the way, I forgot to show this one. This is a cutting wheel. This is a 4.5 inch grinder with a 7 inch cutting wheel. I don't know if the camera can show this or you guys can see where my fingers are. To turn that on, I have to do that. Look how close my fingers are to that.
Close.
This should have had a wheel this size or a little bit bigger than this size on it. But again, the guard will not fit if you have a bigger wheel on it.
So for those that are joining online, if you didn't hear the comment made by one of our folks in attendance, he was relaying the message about that, sometimes in their facility, in their operation, they see folks that come in with equipment like the handheld grinders that are unsafe and shouldn't be utilized. What was one of the stress areas that we made in the opening comments? And that was both employees and employers have a role. So I think this is a really good example about an employee notices something that's unsafe, speak up. Jeff, what do we have online from our folks?
One of the questions, just to kind of review that auto principle.
Yes.
Just kind of review that again.
Okay.
And reiterate that. And
Okay.
and people really enjoyed the light curtains as well.
Okay, I bet they did. Yeah, that is really neat. But right now it's red, so that's bad. If I believe if I twist this, when it's green, I don't know how to keep it on there, but when it's green, it's okay. Green means you're okay. Red means might be just reset it. It is really interesting, that light curtain technology. The issue with those would be dirty environments would be a problem. The dust would get in the air, I would assume. Never been around it much, but the auto principle, I read that many years ago in the National Safety Council. Might have been in college 100 years ago. So auto, a guard must prevent your hands from going around it, under it, or through it, or over it. AUTO, essentially what that means. Another thing I forgot to mention is guards aren't going to work if they hinder how the machine works. So you got to make them functional. That's a problem.
Yeah, very good. Unfortunately, we're out of time for this session. For the folks that, again, are joining virtually and online, please keep populating the chat box with the questions, because just because the session may have ended doesn't mean that the conversation is going to stop. So let's have those in person. Let's have a round of applause again for John Lee. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job,
Thank you, John.
Yeah, very, very good questions. That's what we're really here for today and this week, is to get folks actively involved. Now, we're getting ready to transition to our next demonstration. While we're transitioning, we're going to play a short video highlighting how industry, government, and academia all work together to improve safety in grain handling. Researchers, farmers working side by side to test safer ways to break up an out-of-condition grain using high-powered air compressors, an effort made possible through USDA NEFA's support. Enjoy this video that we're going to be queuing up right now. Thanks, everybody.
Safety is a shared responsibility where farmers, industry, researchers. Hi, I am Salah Isa from the University of Illinois. Welcome to Grain Safety Week. This is a week that reminds us safety is a shared responsibility where farmers, industry, researchers, and the government all work together to keep agricultural safe. Thank you for joining us for the kickoff. And let me start with a story on how different stakeholders can work together to improve the safety of our communities. It starts really in about 2020 when I'm just reading the newspaper and out pops up this story about a farmer named Guy Mills from Nebraska, where he was tackling an issue of his grain going bad. And unlike most people who would just jump into the grain bin to try to tackle it, he said, no, I need to handle this safely. And he ended up coming up with a solution of using compressed air and to successfully remove the grain. And I'm bringing here today Guy Mills from Mills Farms, Nebraska, to tell us his story. Guy?
Well, thank you very much. And I'd like to start out that really grain bin safety goes back to the old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And what I mean by that is that I see grain bin safety really goes back as a preventive measure if you can. And this goes back to the area of getting corn planted on time, because actually we are harvesting sunlight. They're matching the fertility, the use of fungicides, which keeps the corn plant green up until harvest. And then the harvest settings on the combine. That would go back to the deck plates on the corn head, keeping them so you don't shell corn in the row. And then one of maybe the biggest problems that I've seen with farmers is when they have a loose chain on their clean grain elevator conveyor. And that would definitely crack the corn. And anytime you crack a kernel of corn, it invites what I would say moisture and temperature to come in, and then foliage will follow. Some of the things that we do on our farm, we like to clean the corn if all possible, put it into the bin, run our dryer at a lower setting so we don't have stress cracks in the corn, and then move the corn into the bins. If all possible, we used to air this corn, remove the peaks, because the moisture will migrate to the top of the peak. And then you could pull those out maybe like by March or so as the temperature, the ambient temperature outside would change. And those are all the things that we can do that to keep that corn intact and keep it from spoiling.
Well, thank you very much, Guy. Tell us about what happened in 2019 that prompted that story.
Well, with all the things that we try to do right, it happened in 2019 here in Nebraska. We had a tremendous blizzard, and of course, we have a cattle operation too. And I had about 5 foot of snow into the bin that blew in. Very, very odd. You couldn't even get into the bin, literally. So what do? Well, we were worried about our cattle dying, so they were our first priority, and we knew we were going to have a mess. So we got the cattle saved, but later on, then we had definitely a mess in the corn. The corn started to spoil, as we used a compressor there to break up the chunks. And we were able, and I want to make people understand this, we were able to get the corn out of the bin without entering the bin. And that's what this compressor done for us.
So that comes to me. So I went and said, wait a minute, we should investigate the safety for this. So I applied for a grant for USDA NIFA. We got funded. This is how government tends to support this. And we did our research. We researched clumps of grain that go bad. What is their moisture content, the content of grain, the hardness. We developed our own out-of-condition grain. And then we developed our own small experiment where we tested out the out-of-condition grain and tested it out. And we found that compressed air could work, but you have to be careful from the safety solutions as well. What really pointed this out is actually what Guy Mills mentioned earlier, and that is prevention is key. And what we found out is that bringing together industry and farmers together, there's a lot of different strategies that you could use to put in your bin in place and prepare for when your grain can go out of condition, because it will happen at some point of time. This involves outfitting your bin. It could be, for example, installing plug busters, or actually getting robotics to help you manage your grain quality. In addition, in cases where you haven't prepared in advance, there's a lot of different solutions you can do that you can take care of the grain without going in, from as simple as turning the aeration fans to using a compressed air, as we had shown earlier, or basically installing augers in different configurations to resolve this problem. Well, that's what we have for today. Thank you for participating in Grain Safety Week.
Hey, welcome back everybody to safety demo number 2, ladder safety. It's my opportunity and privilege this time to introduce Daniel Gaither. Daniel is the Director of Safety at the College of Agriculture, Consumer Environmental Sciences here at ACES on the campus of the University of Illinois. So everybody, let's welcome Daniel. Daniel,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. As he said, my name is Daniel Gaither. I'm Director of Safety here. I've had the privilege of being with part of the Grain Handling Safety Coalition for about 10 years. I've been here at the U of I for 7, and before that I worked at a local co-op as their safety director for about 7 years. Today I get to talk about actually my favorite topic as a safety manager, ladders.
I feel like ladders are something as a safety manager you can come in, unless they are like, I was new to this program, really could make a difference. I could change it instantly. We could talk new ladders and teach employees more. So my first question for everyone, who's stand on the top cap of this before? Can we raise our hands in the audience? Come on, no one can see your faces. Everyone in the back has. Who has stood on a rolling chair before? Yeah, don't worry, OSHA's in the other room. So again, I'm going to talk about some things that I think can lead to employees not doing that. Because employees are going to do whatever it takes to get the job done, and if we don't give them the right tools, they're going to stand on chairs. They're going to stand on the top cap. So OSHA ranked ladder citations as number 3 last year, and it's been in their top 10 for over a decade. Most serious injuries caused from ladders end up in hospitals, because again, you're falling pretty good. So today I'm going to talk about, in my opinion, the 3 things: poor training, wrong ladder choice, and poor inspections. Most ladder injuries aren't bad luck, they're bad decision making, and I'm hoping we can change how people make decisions. So my first topic is training. So today is not a training session, that could be a whole nother hour presentation, but in my mind we need to train every employee when they start, initial new hire training, and then at least something yearly. March is Ladder Safety Month. It's a good time to sit down with the crew, go through a YouTube video, have a toolbox talk, something like that. Make sure to also have them sign it. If you do have an OSHA injury, OSHA loves to see you have proof that your employees have done this training and signing it. We should also train them real quick how to use a ladder. That you use them with their 4 feet spread, locker bars there. Teach them that you can't stand on these 2. I know it looks like you can, but you're not allowed to. That you should always keep your belly button between the rails. Overreaching not only increases the risk of fall, also a lot of them have back injuries from reaching out over like this trying to grab something. We also need to teach when to use this ladder versus this ladder. We also need to teach them nowadays, they changed the rules on us. Used to, you could never lean a ladder against a wall. Now they come out with all these new ladders that you can lean. So again, do you have that type? We really need to teach them what kind of ladders you have. So my first ladder pair here that I want to talk about is the normal ladder that we all think of versus the new, in my mind, much safer platform ladder. So here in ACES, I've been removing every single one of these 6-foot ladders, even ones that are good. Because again, too short of ladder just increases the risk that an employee will stand here to get the job done. If you get them a platform ladder like this, in theory, when I first bought this first one ever at the old company I was at, he's like, how am I going to stand on that? But see, it's a nice platform. They can't stand up here, or at least it's going to be really hard. They can turn this way, focus, has all the tools, has magnet holders now, is very good for the job. They make them in 6, 8, 10-foot ladders. All right, my topic number 2, I'm going to go over here, gotta move slowly for the camera, is managers and buying of ladders. According to Google, the average cost of a claim is $41,000 for ladders, because many of them, they're so serious, become lawsuits or settlements. I was looking at some other data and said that medical-only injuries, again, you just tripped or stepped off a ladder wrong and twisted your ankle or something like that, it's still over $4,000 an injury just to go to the hospital real quick. How many of these ladders could you buy for $4,000? It's 22, by the way. That's 200, that's 100. Again, that's just if we could reduce one claim. One claim a year. Look how many ladder claims there are. So one claim is $4,600. So we got to put the investment into the ladders. We should be buying ladders for the task, not for the budget. So think about that on when you're buying. Again, it's easy. I can get twice as many as those 6-foot for $100 as this one. We should put the investment in. The next thing we need to decide is the right ladder for industry. This ladder right here, anyone know what the blue color ladder means? Well, they were supposed to be 250 pounds. There's some that are 225 pounds. I have flirted with the 225-pound number quite a few times. So we need to be careful and plan employees and tools that 225, 250 pounds won't work in industry. We need 300 or 375.
They should be rated IA or IAA on every ladder. All right. Next thing I want to talk about is, again, just the change in design. Moving again. Flip this one up too. So one thing is feet of ladders. I was talking to an electrician friend of mine here at the U of I the other day, and we were talking ladders because he saw my trailer full. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I told him presenting about ladder safety. And I was like talking about switching out ladders. And he's like, since my apprentice days, I've had the same foot ladder, which it might be fine, but stuff has changed. The feet on these, about 1 foot by 3, or 1 inch by 3 inch. Look at the foot on the new ones. Again, much more traction, much more stability, much larger surface area. Should also talk about, look at the feet on this ladder. This ladder was still in use when I found it. Who likes those feet? This ladder was being leaned and used so much that right here has nice ridges, completely smooth. Just gone. Again, that's where we need to train employees that we can buy them new ladders, that we'll invest in them. So that leads me to the next thing is we need to teach employees to do their own inspection. 10, 15 seconds. We shouldn't wait for the safety director to come around. Usually, you know, in an industry, there's probably 200 ladders in ACES. It's hard to get around. So we've got to teach employees to look at their own ladders. We'll go to the tall ones now. Who would climb this ladder right here? See anything wrong with it? Tim, do you see anything from here?
Cracked fiberglass.
Yeah. Fiberglass is completely cracked. Most ladders don't go bad overnight. They might break, but a lot of them will start sun fading. Their stickers start to leave, and then they start to crack. So we need to be looking for broken rails, bent rails. When I first started at my old company, first ladder I looked at, the bottom rung was cut completely in half. Must have been used as a sawhorse. I went and asked the employees, how do you use that ladder? Like, don't use the first rung. Thanks. But those are the things. They weren't trying to be unsafe. They just didn't realize, you know, that we can go buy ladders. My first roundup at that company was like 70 ladders. It just was not the thing that people did. We didn't think about it. Now, I go around every year. I offer here in the U of I, hey, does anyone have an old ladder? Do you have a job that needs a new ladder? Let's buy you something. So the last things I want to leave you with is, again, one thing, real quick, I got a minute. Multi-position ladders, great for at home. I don't think they should be in the industry. Just too many moving parts. You have to know how to lock them, have to move them. If they get dirty, metal bent, if they get water in them, freeze. So recommendation, stay away from those. So I think they told me a minute. So the last thing I want to leave with is we need to train people before they start. We need to buy them the proper ladders for the task they're doing. And we need to teach them to inspect ladders. Most ladder injuries don't start on the ladder. They start with the decisions we make before that. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, how about a round of applause for Daniel? Daniel's going to stay right here with me. Daniel's going to stay right here with me. We've already got a question or two in the chat box, so I'm giving you all an opportunity to think about those. Daniel, a couple things. It was really more in the form of comments than questions, but one of the comments was, can you talk about the importance or relevance of 3 points of contact during ladder usage or utilization?
Yeah, so a lot of things I've seen. So anytime you're climbing, you should have 2 feet in a hand when you're climbing. Again, and then when you're working, especially on extension ladders, you need to be, because you could be up 20, 30 feet. You need to have that where you're holding on so you're not slipping. If your foot slips, you have a handhold. If your hand slips, you have 2 feet. So we should always have 3 points of contact.
Very good. Another comment that was in the chat box that I think unfortunately far too many of us can relate to, even the little short guys like me, is that when on an extension ladder we come down, and sometimes it's fairly common, that very bottom rung of that bottom step, what do, Daniel? Oh, we skip it. we're right there. We shouldn't be skipping it, should
Yeah,
we, Daniel?
yeah.
Can you comment about that?
I wish I had the stat, but it was something crazy like 70% of all ladder injuries are from the bottom step. So much that one of the companies, I think it's Little Giant, is working on a ladder that when you take the last step down, it makes a click so that you can hear and know that you're on the last step. I tried to find one to buy it for today, but I couldn't find it. But I think we will see that in the future, something that shows you're on the bottom rung so you don't miss it.
Yeah, very good. We're not going to do an in-person poll on this one, right? We're just going to read between. None of us have ever done that. In-person questions. Anybody? Any questions, comments for Daniel from the folks? I know that on this one in particular, the online is really populating. Anything from anybody in person? I can tell Tim in the front row here, he has a comment, so go ahead. See, here's the thing, if you try to avoid eye contact with me, you're going to get called on. So, Tim, go ahead. What's your comment or question?
Show us how to check the angle on an extension ladder.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so for online, the comment was if Daniel can demonstrate the proper angle of an extension ladder. So
as a safety person, I actually strapped these ladders so they couldn't fall down. But on the side, so the rule of thumb is 4-to-1 ratio. So what they teach you, the quick way to figure that out, and this is not 4-to-1, is that you should put the ladder at your feet, and then it should be arms. See if they'll let me come out. It should then be arm length away from your feet out is roughly a 4-to-1 ratio. Another thing that I teach, if you have, definitely here in industry, you have staff. Get someone to hold it while you're on it. There's no issue not to. Like, climb up there. If you're up there, have someone stand here. Just an extra person, just in case, because when I'm up there, it makes me nervous. For some reason, I always feel like it's just going to slide out. So make sure to have someone hold it if you can.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody, but when my wife and when we're using an extension ladder, I'm afraid of heights. So she's the one that goes up. I do hold the ladder, though. I do hold the ladder. Another one of the comments online, Daniel, and asking for you to comment on, what about pinch points? You know, our fingers, especially on extension ladders. Can you comment on that for everyone?
So yeah, when you're using a full-size extension ladder, you should use I recommend to use the rope. Keep your hands on the outside. Of course, they're hooked together now. Leave them out here and keep them out there so that you're not in those pinch places to get them down. And then always make sure that both sides latch. They're pretty good designs now, but every once in a while, when you get the older ones, one will click in and one won't. So make sure these are working well and that they're there. And don't use ones that were supposed to be 2 parts and there are only 1 part left.
Great information. Well, folks, we unfortunately have run out of time for this session as well. Daniel, this was great. Let's give him another round of applause. Boy, when I think about so many things that have been presented thus far today, especially this one with the ladders, that boy, safety, you want to say a lot of this is just common sense, but how frequently is it that we need to be just reminded on common sense and how important it is? So that was fantastic. For the folks that are joining virtually, as well as everybody here in person, we're going to take a real short little break if you're here in person to get up, stretch around. Those at home, maybe grab a cup of coffee or something, and we're going to be right back with everybody in about 5 to 6 minutes. So let's all use this opportunity to just stretch for a bit, relax, and we'll be right back at it. So thanks everybody, and Daniel, thank you, sir. Thanks everybody.
Welcome to Grain Safety Week. We're here to talk a little bit about academic and industry partnerships. And I know I appreciate the opportunities I've had working with businesses and industry throughout the time. We know grain safety and grain hazards and engulfments and injuries that happen in grain are really something. They're fairly significant. We know the numbers that are out there. So you had the opportunity to do something about that.
Yeah, so thanks for letting me join you. My name is Chad Johnson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Grainweevil. We have a pretty interesting backstory about how we got started in working in the grain industry. My son and I are co-founders. Never been in a grain bin before we started this project. long story short, my son was building a robot that a local farmer had seen, and he said, man, if you can build that, build one to keep me out of a grain bin. And that was that trigger. It was just a challenge. We had no idea, one, why people even go inside of them. We didn't know what the work was being done or what the hazards were. So maybe it was, we were naive enough to say, sure, this sounds like a good project. But obviously, once we started to get into it, we really started to see that it's a dirty, dangerous, it's a horrible environment. It's bad for electronics, let alone for people. So that really did start driving our initial efforts to, okay, what do we even need to do to start to make an impact on the farmer well-being? And that was kind of where we started. It's like, all right, the worst case scenario is a nasty crust, whether it's bridged or what. So can we even build a robot that could to address those things? So that was really kind of how we got started with that challenge, was just to start, first of all, learning about the reasons and the mission behind it, and it really came down to no boots in the grain. That's our everything that we can do. If we can reach that goal, I think we'll finally have an impact on safety.
Yeah, so I'm, thinking about how we started our conversations together in our industry academic partnership. Again, my name is Aaron Yoder. I'm with the University of Nebraska. I work with an ag safety center called Central State Center for Ag Safety and Health at University of Nebraska Medical Center. But how I came in contact with Chad and the Grain Weevil team was through my appointment in biological systems engineering at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. So Chad was seeking out university partnerships, and you can talk a little bit about what led you to that. But then through my network and people knew I did ag safety and health stuff, Chad's name finally made it to me, and I reached out and we started our partnership to start along these process. My opportunity is to help with grain bin safety and grain rescue, and then hopefully has helped Chad a little bit.
It is, like I told you, as we started this process, never even been in a grain bin before. Building a machine like this, the hardware, just the robot itself is hard. The environment is extremely hard. It's one of the worst environments that you could even want to build a robot. So we started to go into this. We had experience on building robots, but not this depth that we needed. So we had to seek out help. When you're trying to tackle problems that are really hard, you've got to surround yourselves with the right people. So as we started to go through our process, we were very fortunate to get a National Science Foundation SBIR. And in that phase one process was to really start to define the problem in a scientific way. And that's where we started, okay, we need to seek out help. And that's using that grant funding got us the help from Dr. Yoder. And then we also got to do some experiments with different grain handling and grain interaction at Iowa State University through this whole process, because they just happen to have an airflow simulator. So it's just this, when problems are big and complex and hard, getting partnerships from government, the funding to do difficult things, from industry, and it's not just as us as a robot company industry, it's the whole entire grain industry has been very helpful to us. And then the academic side of things is, I don't know, it's weird because sometimes you think that's the professors and all of this, but when you look at the programs that have been made available to us to help us, I don't know, on our side of it, we've gotten so much more help on the safety aspect of it, and that's what we needed. We needed that help, and it's just been really cool for us to have those interactions.
Yeah, we'll be here together, and I'll just slip off that way. Hey, welcome back, everybody. And this is safety demo number 3. In this safety demo, we're going to be talking about electrical safety and be doing it in a demonstration farm. I have the honor now to be joined by Steve Hancock. Steve is from Live Line Demo USA. Steve?
Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for being here today.
You bet. Appreciate it. A little bit about myself so you know where I come from. I've been in electric utility business for 46 years. I retired 5 years ago. I've been in every aspect of this business, from the power plant, nuclear, coal, all the way down to being a lineman, if you want to call it that. So anyhow, I've got a broad background, but with that said, I don't know everything. I'm still learning. So, okay, that's kind of how this stuff goes. But we're going to talk a little bit about hazards associated with electricity, and I'm going to talk about more of the common stuff, you know, some of the stuff we don't think about. Here's the thing with electricity. We get too complacent with it, right? Because we can't see it, we can't hear it, can't smell it. So unfortunately, we think there's no danger there, right? We get so much involved with it, you don't see a lot of the stuff that I see that'll literally scare the living daylights out of you. So what I'm here today is to show you some of those basic things that we do day in and day out, no matter how safe we are or think we are, and we still do some stupid stuff, right? So we'll talk about that. I think first of all, you need to know a little bit about how electricity works. That would help, I think. Electricity is real basic. The bottom line is people think it's high voltage. It's the big power lines out on the pole and stuff like that. It's not. Everybody thinks it's the voltage that gets us, but a couple of real basic concepts. Number one, it's not the voltage. It's what we call amps, load, current. If you want to know about how electricity works a little bit, electricity flows through a pipe, a conductor, right? Think of it like a water line. And we call voltage the same thing as pressure in a water line, okay? So they are synonymous. It's the pressure that pushes, right? So ohms is the resistance in it, like in a pipe. If we got a smaller pipe, bigger pipe, a clogged up pipe, it's resistance, right? That's ohms. But the thing that gets us is amperage, load, current. Those three things mean the same thing. When you consume electricity, in essence, you're drawing amps, load, current. That's the stuff that kills us. And everybody thinks it's the high voltage that it's going to have to take, right? No. It's the common stuff that we deal with, work with every day. 120 volts, okay, or less, right? When you plug in your phones, your iPads, and all the other stuff. So that's what we're talking about today. That's the stuff literally that kills us. Most people in electrocution are killed 120 volts or less, not the high voltage stuff. So that's the concept you got to grasp. And again, you can't see it, can't hear it, can't smell it, right? So, but it's there. Always assume it's there. Always trust it's there ready to get you, right? So with that said, you know, we have 55,000 recorded incidents a year, and we have 5,000 fatalities because of that. And the number one cause of that, for the most part, honestly, is a loose connection. Either in a wall, a conduit, a building, or whatever, and it smolders or burns and causes a fire, not so much electrocution. Then carbon dioxide is what takes us out of our game, right? So that's kind of the concept how electricity works. It's always there. Again, you can't see it here. And we're going to talk a little bit about cords and things of that nature that we use every day, right? And we use them in an appropriate way. So I've got a variety of things up here to show you. And in essence, when we get into issues, the hazards that cause us problems, it revolves around either an overhead line, a down power line, or a down line of any nature. And by the way, that most common line on the ground that's down, it's cable TV wire. And our stuff will be laying on it somewhere and energize it potentially, right? And get you in trouble. But we deal with cords all the time. And cords, you know, we take them for granted that they can be used anywhere, everywhere, right? Whether you got putting up Christmas lights at home and using the small green or brown cords, we use them for everything, right? As long as you can plug in and get power, they'll control and run anything. Is that correct? I don't think so. Everything is rated. Every cord is rated. It's imprinted on the cord. If it's not, it may not be such a cord you want to use, okay? Because it's the size of the wire, the pipe that allows us to know how much we can carry through that cord, right? So take that green or brown Christmas cord and plug 15 hot pots in it, right? Or crock pots in it, or use that cord out on the farm in an industry or business. Is it applicable to what you're doing? So you got to know that. You need to know, nobody's going to tell you. You need to know size of the cord. Is it big enough to handle what I'm powering up, right? Is it a 3-wire or a 2-wire circuit? We've got a lot of 2-wire stuff in the farm application, ag application, hadn't been changed out. You know, it's still 2-wire, so we have no ground. The biggest causes, again, of electrocutions is either an overhead line falling, no ground, no GFCI, those types of things, right? So got to be careful with our cords. They can't be just used in any and all applications, right? So again, you got to know the size of the wire. You got to know the gauge of it associated with how many amps it can operate at. Is it applicable for what I'm doing? Outside, inside, whatever. And we mishandle cords, right? If I had a tool up here as an example, how many of you ever picked up an industrial tool, whether it's a grinder? John's been talking about grinders on the other side and different tools or whatever. Do we always grab it by the tool, or do we just grab it by the cord? Pick it up by the cord, right? And where it attaches to a tool, we're going to get a problem at some point. How many of us ever plug something in a wall? And I don't see an outlet right here, but if you plug something in a wall, rather than reach over and firmly grabbing the plug and pull it out, do we just grab the cord and jerk it out, right? So we do that all the time. We could get complacent and lazy. We all do that. Or better yet, you plug in somewhere a tool or a piece of equipment of any nature, and when you plug it in, I'll be darned, it hasn't got that third prong. The grounding prong in the plug, right? So what do we all do? Come on, what do we all do? We break off the prong off our plug and plug it in. Does it work? Sure it does, right? What's so hard about that? Just break it off, but you've lost your ground. You've lost your protection. Without a ground wire, and by the way, you've got a positive component, you've got a neutral, and a ground. The neutral and ground, many people think, is the same thing. It's not. It's different. Electrically, it's different, okay? So we need that ground wire in all cases. But I've got some examples up there, and we use this stuff every day. Check this cord out up here. It's been in use. Again, this is used for certain applications, certain loads. But if you look at this cord, it's knotted up. Well, that's going to choke down the water, isn't it? Not good to knot up cords, you know. Not good to knot up cords. Look at the plug end of it. Looks like she's been burned up and melted a little bit. We plugged some really high amperage stuff into this, and when we have high amperage and what have you, we start to heat, overload, melt, fire arcs, etc. This one's even got a burn mark somewhere in it, I think, where the actual cord itself, you know, has been burned a couple times. Maybe we've gotten this near a welder and we're splattering and do different things, but until it doesn't work anymore, we just keep using it, right? We just keep using it. So beware of your cords, take care of your cords. There's a number of examples up here. You can all take a look at it any time. But we cut through a cord. You know, here about 4 or 5 years ago, I was cutting hedge outside the house with a corded hedge trimmer. What do you think I did after about 10 minutes? Cut the cord. Well, I didn't cut it off, you know, midway in the cord. I cut it about 10 feet from my hedge trimmer, right? So what do you think I did? I rolled it up, put it in the garage floor in the house, got me another cord plugged in. By the way, I reset my GFCI. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I reset my GFCI, put a new cord in. What do you think I did in about 15 minutes? Did it again. Well, I may not be the smartest tool in the shed, but I'll tell you this. After I do it a couple times, I'm going to do something different because this is probably not the thing for me to keep doing. But do we do these types of things? Sure we do. So this particular guy cut the cord. Look how he put her back together. Just kind of two indifferent cords, by the way. Just kind of stripped it, put some wire nuts on it, threw some tape on it, and knotted it in a knot like that. We do this stuff all the time when we have cords that are frayed on the outside. There's different components there. There's an outside insulation, you know, and then we have some inner material, and then we've got our wires. And so whenever we do these types of things, make sure that we repair it properly. In this case, especially industrial applications, throw it away. Now, by the way, when you throw away stuff, do you just discard it? Remember what I said? I discarded that cord on the garage floor of my house. What do you think happened a week later? My son came over, and he lives in a different town. About the only time he comes over to visit me, and he came over to visit, and all he wanted was a cord. He was doing the same thing. So he saw that cord on the floor, and he picked it up, took it home with him, and used it. Did I set him up? What do we do with broken components, material, things like that? We either throw it away or lock it out and tag it out, right, if it's going to be repaired. But most of the time we have stuff like this, we need to pitch it and get a new one because we're setting somebody up for another hazard, right? So you have to beware all the time of what's going on in those situations. By the way, your friend, and people just discard and don't use this. This is a low voltage glove. These gloves are rated 1,000 volts or less, which in most applications, industrial or otherwise, will protect you. They're not real expensive. They're easy to work with. Okay, they're not real difficult. But my point is, you can still pick up and work with things, but this is your friend. This can keep you in the event you get near close to something that you can maybe get an electrocution. This will help protect you, insulate you, if you will, from the hazard, right? In case something messes up. Now, if you have materials like this or whatever, they got to be tested, because how do you know it's going to work for you, right? So these materials have to be tested appropriately to make sure they work right, correct? So we got to be aware of that. So make sure that you utilize equipment, and they're not the end all. There's also different voltage testers out there, correct? We've got different voltage testers that we can have, that we can utilize. I don't know if I brought one here. I did not, I apologize. But there's voltage testers that we can check voltage to make sure, is it off, is it on? And oh, by the way, if you're ever, especially in industrial applications, we see this all the time. If you're turning on or off a component, a piece of equipment, a motor, a large motor, whatever, you use a disconnect, correct? So those disconnects, we talk about electrocution all the time, but we could have an arc blast if something's wrong inside the box, the cabinet, etc. We could have an arc blast that just takes us out of our game. And that could be up to 50,000 fault amps, pressure up to 1,000 PSI. That could blow you away. So my point is this, always when you utilize a disconnect of any nature, or open or close a box, make sure that you identify the disconnect, and again, most of those disconnects down, off, up, on, right? Identify it, turn away, and then energize the piece of equipment. Because in the event there's something wrong internally in that box, you could get an arc blast that comes out, takes you out of your game. So if I'm in position with my back or side to it, I have less damage if something does happen. And it can, correct? Well, the last thing I want to touch base on, and this is the most important thing, quite honestly, of the whole discussion when it comes to equipment and what have you. GFCIs, ground, fault, circuit, interrupters. I'm not a big proponent of acronyms, but this one makes sense. Electricity's always wanting to go home. That's the ground we stand on. It's going to find the quickest, easiest path to get there. And GFCIs are what protect us. Many people think a breaker or a fuse will protect us. In the event we get involved with an electric circuit, that breaker or that fuse will trip or blow and protect us from getting shocked or electrocuted, right? And by the way, when you electrocution, it only takes 5 milliamps to shut the heart down. Then after burn, you take your head off, just stops the heart. It doesn't refire. But these GFCIs are looking for 5 milliamps, okay? That's what they're looking for. They're looking for the return and balance of the system. And if it sees 5 milliamps or more of current flow, it knows we need to shut that power off in quick nanosecond computer-like speed to keep us alive, okay? That's the deal. But look at the back of these two, and I've got thousands of them. Look at the backs of these GFCIs. Here's the thing we don't do. You all see them, you know them. Hopefully you all have them somewhere in your home, correct? Near water, faucets, bathrooms, industrial, anywhere in any building should have GFCIs. But most do not. Most do not, okay? But here's the thing. These are all bad. And here's something we never do. We never test them, okay? We never test the GFCI. 4-year-old can do it. It takes 5 seconds. All you do, each GFCI's got a test button and a reset button. It may have a light on it, maybe a red button or a black button, maybe 2 white buttons. All you do is hit the test button, and it should turn the power off to whatever you're operating. Hit the reset, it should turn it back on. If it does not, it's bad. These GFCIs were in the wall working electrically, but the GFCI component that was in them, bad. No good. So they're not going to help you at all in any way, shape, or form. If you tested it, you would know when you can replace it. This GFCI is about 16 to 21 bucks. They can be gotten as a plug, an outlet, a breaker, or portable. So GFCIs are our friend, okay? So make sure we have them and we test them, make sure they're on your checklist. With that said, appreciate the opportunity to bring this program here this morning, this short program. Is there any questions or anything that you may have?
Yeah, first off, let's give Steve a round of applause real quick. Yeah, again, while we're waiting on the chat box to populate, and you folks here have questions as well, I'm going to see, Steve, if I can pull this board up.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve. So, Steve, can you see what I'm pointing to right here? Cameraman, can you see what I'm pointing to right here? How many of us, again, we're not going to do by a show of hands. I just read the young man right there. It's like I know what the heck he's going to bring up next. But how many of us right now at home, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, how many of us right now at home, on the farm or our workplace, have some kind of an extension cord that looks just like this, where we've kind of made, right?
Yeah.
Makeshift. Steve, talk to us about that.
Yeah, in the first place, here we've got a splice, right? Or maybe it's just a repair of a nicked insulation, most likely because it's not very fat. But a lot of people splice it with something, and they may solder it, they may use connectors or whatever that are pinched or crimped together, and then they use tape. Another thing that is not our friend, and especially in an industrial application, is water, moisture, things of that nature. Yeah. That particular splice, particularly with that, is no-no in the first place. We're not going to do it. But if you had done it differently, heat shrink and things like that, you might make it moisture proof. But these things you just do not do. Throw it away. Get a new one.
So
just you're causing a hazard for somebody else. If you don't care about yourself, at least put yourself in the shoes of the next person who's going to use it.
So better off to replace
Absolutely.
than to attempt to repair.
Yes, sir.
Steve, another question. I think you can put that down. So, yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, what we've got.
Can you repeat that question back, Steve, for those
Yeah,
listening online?
John posed the question, what's the danger associated with this particular application right here where we have Romex wire, okay? It's not an approved, cable of any nature, an electrical wire. It's Romex. It's intended to be hidden in a wall, things like that. And obviously we've got a couple of plugs handmade on each end of it. So we don't have a good seal in any way, shape, or form on it. The wire in itself is not utilized for this purpose. It's a circuit wire that's buried in the wall in a residential application, not commercial. And therefore, we don't have a good situation here. And we also don't have, if you look at that plug, anybody see a ground on it? No grounding plug, no terminal there. Therefore, we don't have the ability for this particular circuit to protect us with that ground circuit, which is important, highly important.
Yeah, very, very, very good question. Steve, another one that I've got that, again, I think many of us here in person, but certainly a lot more that are joining online. Those of us that have these electric power washers, and you see it all the time. Somebody's, washing down, maybe it's their garage, maybe it's their shop, maybe it is whatever it is. And you walk in and you just see power cords strewn all over the place.
Yeah.
What's a sign for us on whether that cord is safe or not for us to even be doing that? Or maybe better yet, what are things to avoid?
Yeah, that's really a no-no, because obviously you got that cord, again, unless it's certified to be in that water environment, because most of the time they're laying in that water. Number two, it's probably not into a GFCI circuit, which again, in the event something happens, is going to protect it, so that's a no-no. So those are just situations where unless you inspect it and you're already in the zone, in the event you want to go look at something, you're already in water, dampness, and all this type of thing. It's just not going to be a good environment. So those are typical areas where we see problems, accidents occur. Many times there's no ground. Again, we've either pinched off or taken off the ground probe. So just a bad application. You may do that at home even, and have that cord strung clear down the end of your driveway. It's been rolled over, run over maybe by vehicles numerous times, pinched, cut, otherwise. Do you inspect that cord every time you use it? You should.
Yeah, very, very good. Jeff, questions or anything online for us? Anything in the chat box? Do we have anything here? Real quick, we're down to about 30 seconds. Do we have anything from anybody in person? Steve, this was so good. I'll admit, out of all of the hazards and things that we encounter both at home and in the workplace, electricity has been that one area that I've always feared the most. So this was a great presentation. Another round of applause for Steve for a great job. You can stay right here with me. What we're going to do next is we're going to transition to our next demonstration now. In the few minutes in which we're doing this transition, we're going to play a short video about how machine learning can lead to new insights in the grain handling industry. In this video, we're going to be highlighting how researchers are pushing the boundaries of what data can do for all of us using advanced modeling to predict grain entrapments and assess grain quality. This work will help farmers, grain facilities, and government agencies in better understanding the factors that influence safety and quality, and prepare the entire grain handling community to anticipate risks and respond more effectively. So for those joining virtually, please enjoy that video, and we'll be transitioning here. So thanks again, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Salah Isa, assistant professor at the University of Illinois. Today, I'd like to welcome you to Grain Safety Week. This week is about protecting the people who feed our communities. And today, we're going to highlight how industry, farmers, academia, and government all work together to make grain handling safer. To begin with, I'd like to show you our data. This is data from Purdue University, who's collected it for years on grain entrapments. Part of that came from government funding through OSHA Harvard grants. But what you see here is a trend line. It's been steady between 20 to 40 cases per year since at least 2005. And what's really interesting here is that it's not just steady, it goes up and down, up and down. So for example, 2012, which was a drought year, we had one of the fewest number of cases currently. And then similarly, in 2009, 2010, which was a really wet year with a late harvest, we saw a peak number of incidents. What I am going to invite you today is hear from Sahar Yousefi, who can talk about how she worked on this trends and use predictive analytics for it.
Thank you very much. So the idea of this project came from seeing these trends of grain entrapment incidents over the years. And we wanted to use this information, and we found that there are some factors that has effect on and cause the grain entrapment. So we wanted to use all this information as the input of our predictive models and ask the machine learning models to predict us the probability of the grain entrapment incidents. So we used some information for our model's inputs, like weather condition, the grain storage capacity, and corn the amount of corn produced, and also grain entrapment cases. For each specific regions of 5 states of Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois, Iowa, and Wisconsin. So we use this information as the inputs of the model, and then the model train and learn the pattern from this information and predict the grain entrapment incidents for us. The best accuracy that we got from our model was 78%. Which is telling us that the model could learn the pattern and could learn something from those information to give us the probability of the grain incident. But also it tells us that it's not the perfect result and it can be improved. So we can say that we can use this model as the foundation model, and it can be improved also as well. And how this model can help us. So based on the information that the model can tell us, it can tell us for some specific region, for example, there's a high risk of the grain incident for the following year. And based on that information, the policymakers, for example, they can see if they want to put some warning signs, and it help the people who work on that area to be aware that's a high risk of the grain incident in this year, or if they want to do some safety training for those people. So I think that can be helpful. And yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sahar. We also have with us Gretchen Mosher, professor at Iowa State University, that can tell us how she can bring these stakeholders and the results that we get from this.
Thank you very much. I have led several projects where we have utilized expert panels, drawing those experts from industry, academics, and the regulatory and government sector. One of the things that these panels often do for us is they provide us some conceptual ideas. They bring a different perspective, a different angle, and a different approach, but they also can identify where we have missing elements that would improve the models that we are building and constructing. One of those projects highlighted the lack of knowledge that we have on grain storage bins in the upper Midwest. And so we are in the process of beginning a project where we intend to use GIS, Geographic Information Systems technology, to identify the practical characteristics of the grain bin, including the location and the size and the capacity. This is one example of how we can utilize feedback from industry and from governmental sectors, as well as the regulatory industry, such as insurance providers, along with the expertise and input from academics. And it helps us to create focused, relevant policies and findings to be of most use for those working on the farm and in the grain elevator. So thank you for offering me the opportunity to talk today. Glad to be here.
Thank you very much, Gretchen. Grain Safety Week reminds us that safety is a shared responsibility. And when industry, farmers, researchers, and government work together, we can create solutions that that can protect our workers and make grain handling a safer experience. Thank you.
I know what's fixing to happen. Well, welcome back, everybody. This is safety demo number 4. And for those that are here in person, I'd like to say that you're in for a treat, but I'm not sure that we would actually call this a treat. It will get your attention in that this is the dust explosion demonstration. Yes. And at this time, I'd like to introduce David Newcomb. David is Agricultural Rescue Program Manager at the Illinois Fire Services Institute. So let's give David a warm welcome. Thank you, David.
Good to meet you, sir. Good morning. Glad to see you all here. Like I said, I'm with the Fire Service Institute. We're the State Fire Academy, so I train first responders all over the state of Illinois. I had 35 years in the fire service riding big red trucks, and last 15 years I've been retired. I've been teaching for almost 30 years. Also, the last 16 as the program manager for the Institute. So we do a lot of training with firefighters and that around the state on grain bin rescues, large animal rescues, machinery entrapments, anhydrous ammonia, most farm emergencies. So that's what we cover. And if I was home on a weekend, my wife would be very confused. So 70% of first responders in the state of Illinois and the United States are volunteers. So our training is designed to go to them. So that's how we do it. Last year we trained over 58,000 students in a year. So we're very busy. So today our topic is grain dust explosions, or dust explosions as one of the curriculums. So once again, our focus is that everybody comes to work and everybody goes home. Same thing, we train first responders. Everybody goes home. We're always paying attention to what I call we pay attention to our surroundings, okay? So I'm watching for things around me, because if it was an electrical hazard like they've talked about, or a ladder, or grain dust, if it's a hazard and it's something that can injure you, it doesn't care who you are. It doesn't matter if you're the farmhand. It doesn't matter you're the employee. It doesn't matter you're a family member. It doesn't matter that you're a first responder. If it can get you, it will. So it's always that situational awareness of paying attention around yourself and the things going on around you. So when it comes to grain dust, this is grain dust, all right? Nice, easy container. And inside, you can see, and if I come home clean, it'll be a really wordy, but we're gonna show an explosion here after a while, but this is the amount of dust that we're gonna blow up, okay? Half a teaspoon. Doesn't take much, okay? Another key factor about grain dust is the fact that it is 10 times the strength of TNT, okay? So it's very explosive. Now, there are 5 components that play a role into that. There's heat, fuel, and oxygen. just like the fire triangle. What creates fire? You got a heat source, you got fuel, you got oxygen. So we already have that going on. We've got air in our atmosphere. We've got the dust as our fuel, and there's our heat source, okay? So we've got three. There's two more components that play a role in this. That is containment, which would be the structure. In the working environment, it could be the grain leg, in the boot pit or whatever, or in the top. You know, if you put a grain leg in, you extend or increase the possibility of a grain dust explosion by 30%, okay? So, once again, it plays a role in paying attention to our surroundings. And I know in harvest, it can be a real challenge. If I'm dumping trucks in the elevator and all that, dust is going to be accumulating in big amounts. So it's paying attention to that, how much of it is accumulating and what can I do about that. So that plays a role. Housekeeping is a big deal. We deal with this all the time. And it doesn't matter even in grain dust, it deals with, you know, household fires or anything like that. Housekeeping plays a role. The other part is maintenance, all right? So do I keep the belts on the grain leg or whatever? Are they properly adjusted? Is everything working the way it should be? Have I got bearings in that, in the wheels or anything that's moving? Are they in proper tension? Have they been lubricated? Anything like that that keeps things working properly, okay? If you go on YouTube, you can see some pretty cool dust explosions. There was one over in Ohio a few years ago at a Bunge facility, and it was a grain elevator, concrete elevator, and the security cameras from the neighboring car dealership caught the explosion. The interesting thing about a grain dust explosion is there is usually a primary explosion, which then vibrates the building and then atomizes all of that dust in the building, and then the fire starts spreading. And in this situation over at Bunge, you saw the first floor windows blow out, and it just traveled up the leg. And it was blowing the windows out of the facility all the way up. And I was talking to John earlier, was there roughly 30 explosions in that facility on that day, okay? So 30 times it went boom, and things were coming apart. We talked about dust, once again, just like this, no big deal. You get it atomized, it's a big deal. We work on paying attention, once again, first responders and all that. So our protection, and you know, another part of this, we talk about the maintenance of our equipment. We talk about, you know, housekeeping and all that. The other thing is we also got to pay attention to ourselves. Harvest time, we're getting into long hours, long days. People can get fatigued, and accidents can happen that way also, okay? So that's, you know, once again, we have to pay attention to ourselves also. So that's all a part of it. It all plays a role in this, okay? So we're working to do all that. So the other thing, once again, we'll atomize the containment and atomization. It's with the Eureka. Eureka had a grain dust explosion, what, in 2018. And that actually, 2 security cameras of the facility caught both sides of the facility. So if you go to YouTube and check out the Eureka grain dust explosion, you'll find that there. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. I think we're going to go ahead and blow this up and get things rolling. John over here, my good friend, keeps trying to give me one of these, and I keep explaining to him that I have no need and or desire to teach firemen how to blow stuff up, okay? I don't wish to be the source. One of my most nervous days in the fire station was when the guys had the hazmat books out and we were looking at a home remedy to blow up a beaver dam, okay? Don't want to play that game. So you might want to put your fingers in your ears. Once again, this is a half of a teaspoon, all right? Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Ooh, ah. Okay? Doesn't take much. John and I were teaching this class one day. We were at the LaSalle County Farm Bureau. We're in a classroom, auditorium. I don't know if John had a little bit more than a half a teaspoon of powder in there, but when we lit it off, we shook the building, and all of a sudden you hear people running down the hallway. What was that? What was that? And we said, well, we simulated a grain dust explosion. So we said, well, show us again. So John picked it up and went out into the parking lot, okay? And while John was out there doing it again, I'm putting the ceiling tiles back in the classroom. We blew the ceiling out, okay? Funny story to that whole thing was, like 6 months after that class, I was asked by the Farm Bureau to come to their annual meeting and do a class on lockout tagout. It's at the Palmer House Hotel, downtown Chicago. I walk into that hotel, 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. I'm in the lobby and this guy goes, "You're that guy that blows crap up." Okay? Now I want to touch on one more thing I overlooked is, if we were working in a dusty environment, okay? OSHA has a rule of thumb, and everybody's thumb's different, but if Butch and I were here and we're working in an area roughly 5 feet apart, and we see a lot of dust between us and it kind of starts to obscure our visibility, we could be in a dust explosion environment. If the air is clear, it's safer. But if we can actually see it and it starts to obscure our visibility at 5 feet, we need to be thinking about changing the environment. Okay? All right, so we're going to go to the video here. And what this is going to be is what you just saw, and you're going to see it in slow motion. Pretty cool.
Very good. Yeah, that is. Round of applause for Dave.
Thank you.
I'm not sure that blowing stuff up on a Monday morning, is worthy of an applause, but I hid about as far away from this thing as I possibly could, and had my fingers in my ears, and other people had hands over my fingers in my ears. No, and in all seriousness, I mean, when you think about that, the half of a teaspoon is what we witnessed. I think you probably said it though, Dave, but tell us again, what was the temperature at the point of
the element? The elements are roughly 900 degrees in that neighborhood, right, John? 9 something? 900. Yeah, 900 is the heating element.
Yeah. Yeah, just
like a toaster.
Yeah, unbelievable demo in terms of an impact. So again, the folks online, feel free to utilize the chat box, populate it with questions. I think this time we'll go ahead and start here in person. Questions from or comments by anybody here in person. Anything at all for Dave?
Another one of those things we don't play with.
Well, that's kind of what I was gonna bring up, Dave. I mean, when I think about it, from beginning at the farm level, literally all the way through the commercialization chain, if you will, of the transformation of grain into the many thousands of products the consumers are utilizing every single day, dust is present in some form. How do we know when there's, what are signs that there's too much dust?
Well, once again, if it's atomized and we're standing 5 feet apart and we're starting to obscure our vision, that's an issue. Okay. What is it, 1/8 of an inch? 1/8 of an inch is a violation if they were to come into facilities. Okay. For housekeeping and all that, dust deeper than 1/8 of an inch is a violation.
On anything?
On flat surfaces, pretty much anything. Yes. I'm referring to John because he's actually my source on most of this, but yes.
Okay.
So it all plays back to paying attention to your surroundings. And I know it gets that 21st day of running stuff. It's like, I don't care about that right now. I got to get this done. And that complacency can play a role. Okay. We have to pay attention to what's going on around us because once again, that dust, that auger, that electrical cord, whatever, doesn't care who you are.
Yeah.
It'll get you.
Yeah.
And, John, we had 2 major explosions a number of years ago. One killed 60 people. Another explosion killed 40 people. And now we're running roughly, 20-some a year in the United States. So, and I think technology is playing a big role in that we've got a lot more sensors and ways that we're monitoring equipment, that it's upgraded, plus the fact that the structures nowadays are built that if there was an explosion, that there are fail points.
Yeah.
That way you don't take the whole thing down.
So, Dave, a little bit of a comment, but in the form of a question. I think that very, very frequently when we think about grain handling, we think about dust, we think about this hazard that was just demoed today, I believe that it's natural for our minds to just immediately go to grain elevators, feed mills, that sort of thing. But let's stop and pause for just a bit. There's nearly 200 corn ethanol plants in this country. Every single one of them start off as a grain elevator first.
Exactly.
They're handling grain just the way the grain elevator of the feed mill is.
Yep.
There's 70 plus soy crush facilities in the United States. And some of these biorefineries, you know, there's hazards that exist there beyond your country grain elevator. So can you just comment kind of industry-wide those awareness things that we're not just limited to a grain elevator or a feed mill?
No, it's any processing. You know, it can be, you know, a wheat bin or processing seed or oil.
Yeah.
You know, your cooking oils and all those things. There's the magnitude of where this goes is endless. You know, and it can be fine things. You know, like even the, you know, going to buy your packets of seed for your flowers and all that. That has to go through a process somewhere.
Right.
You know, it may not be in a big elevator, but it could be in a machining process. The sorting and bagging and all that can all play a role, and those are all challenges out there.
I appreciate the emphasis that Dave was making on the P, processing. It's a key part of what we're involved in Jeeps. Jeff, anything online from our folks?
Talk about bringing in first responders to your facilities and giving them tours.
Yes, very critical point. Familiarization of the facility. You want to bring in first responders to tour your facility. Some of our guys out there who have been trained in the grain bins process at the operations level is bringing them into your facility for a tour counts toward training for them to maintain their certifications. The other part is the familiarization. And this plays a role in the facility, grain elevators and all that, and the farm. I don't know your facility. So if I needed to know where do I shut the leg down or shut the overhead down, who's going to be my biggest resource? Okay, who knows that facility best? That's critical. The other part is if you're the plant manager and I'm the officer coming in, it would be a good idea to know you. I don't want to be meeting somebody for the first time in the middle of an oh crap, okay, in that things are already, you know, everybody's already in fast mode and all that. And it would be better to be able to have a name and a face. I may not remember your name, but I remember your face, and you're the boss. And today I'm the boss. So we've got to work together. I'll give you a classic example that has nothing to do with grain elevators. Back in 1992, Urbana got hit by a tornado. And I was the incident commander that night. And we got on the south side of town. I got this huge power pole in the middle of the street. And I'm sitting there, and a power company guy walks up to me, and I said, "You got 30 minutes to get this road open. I need this road." And he goes, "I cut those wires, you don't have power for a week. You give me an hour to move them, you can have power tomorrow." I said, okay, information I needed. That's the kind of information I need from the facilities. Okay, where are the main shutoffs? Where are, you know, for the most part, are everything clearly marked? If I walk into the farm and I've got pictures of electrical panels that are the nightmare from you know where, and I call it farmerization, where they did their own wiring, that nothing's marked, nothing labeled, but everybody knows that's the switch for this. Well, if there ain't a label on it, I don't know. So thank you.
Yeah, very, very, very good. Boy, this information was so great, Dave. And I know that we're out of time here, but I've got just one final thing that I'd like you to just give a brief comment on. So for so many of us that are from rural areas, very rural areas, right?
Yep.
Our fire department and our first responders, they're made up of folks that they've got a daytime job.
Yes.
Working front. So in those situations, who's the person that is the lead responsibility of this information getting out? Is it the facility manager, superintendent, general manager? Is it the local fire chief? I think this goes both ways.
The fire chiefs or if they're a training officer or whatever, they need to be out there researching, you know, to go to talk to these folks. We emphasize in our training, know your facilities, know who's there, know what they do. Because If I walk in for the first time and I don't know what it is, what am I walking into? I don't know what's there to hurt me. You know, the folks that work with it every day, that's cool. They understand it. I don't, you know, and I find more and more first responders don't come from the rural community. So when I start talking about sweep augers and grain legs and all those, they look at me like, what are you talking about? You know, I did a story or did a thing on lockout tagout one day, and I said, how many of you unplugged the drill before you changed the bit? And the kid said, when did they have cords? He'd only seen a battery drill. He'd never seen a drill with a cord on it. I date myself again. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, but if something, that's once again, it's that facility and knowing your surroundings. Absolutely.
Yeah, so for those joining, by the way, round of applause for Dave. Great job.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Great job. Yeah, the comment for those that were joining online, one of the comments in-house was that, you know what, I'm a local first responder. We go out there, we tour the facility and such, and we see it during the day and during the daylight hours. And that facility may have one appearance and one condition during the day, but you know what happens when that emergency or whatever happens at night?
Yeah.
It takes on a completely different appearance. So great job.
And we work on that as who's my after-hour contact. You know, we want that number to be able to call, and we also set up facilities or processes where I got numbers plastered on, you know, after 5 o'clock, you call him, or this, or we put a box with information that I can open the box and have what I need.
Yep, very
so
good.
You know, it all goes back to that communication thing. It always plays a role.
Exactly. Good.
All right.
Thanks again, Dave.
Thank you, everybody.
To do wrap up, I'm going to move over here for the folks here in person. Standing by that doggone explosion device makes me a little bit nervous, guys. I'm just saying that thing makes me nervous. So, tell you what, y'all, we're about ready to wrap things up today. We've had some tremendous presentations. We've also learned a lot of ways that industry researchers and regulators are working together to improve industry, and we thank all of them for those efforts. Please visit the Stand Up for Grain Safety website to see more information about the presenters and the today. You can find a plethora of resources on the Stand Up website, as well as those of all of our partners. One such resource is playing the movie Silo, all caps, S-I-L-O. This is a great refresher for the industry. There are many ways to watch, and they're still doing community screenings of this movie right now. They're looking for some dairy farmers actually for preview screenings of this. Additionally, another new venture in the works is a documentary on children and farm work. Feel free to feature me in that one. I would be more than happy. I may not be a child anymore, but doggone, I'm a farm kid that can share all kinds of stories. They're also asking for a variety of participants, so if you're willing to participate in those, contact us, and Catherine, who's involved with Stand Up for Grain Safety Week, we'll be putting up the links to resources and other adventures in the chat box. We're just about out of time today, but there's a few folks in particular that I'd like to thank, and I want to name them by name because it's some folks that have been here with us in person, but also joining virtually. First of all, again, Dean Bolero, rumor has it he's on his way to Indianapolis. I guess there's some kind of game or something happening pretty soon. No, good luck to the Illini in the Final Four. That'd be great. We also want to thank Aaron Hollenshed, who is the director of Safe Electricity. Daniel Gaither. Daniel, you did a great job over there with the ladders, director of safety here at ACES. Dr. Salah Isa, I don't know where Salah is. He's probably hiding in some control room right now. I think he's coming out here right now. Cameraman, if you can pan over here. Don't make the folks at home nauseous as you're spinning around. But Salah's the guy, he's the guy that makes this happen. Leon Peters, who's the manager. Where's Leon? Is he around here somewhere? There's Leon. Let's give Leon. Come in here. They can't see you at home, Leon. Come on. You got to get over here and say, come on, don't be shy. This ain't Southern Illinois University. This is University of Illinois. Come on. I'm an SIU grad, so I can get away with saying that. Nobody else can. So this is Leon Peters. He's the manager here at the Technology Center. Thank you to you. Jonathan Mosley.
Leon, real quick. Your staff did such a good job today, getting clean, organized, helping move chairs. I want to thank all of them. I know they're around too. So.
Yep. All of the students. Again, this list goes on and on and on. And we'll make sure that everybody gets the shout out that they're due on this. But again, it really took an army to put all this together. Again, for our sponsors, because none of these things happen absent a sponsorship. Now, for those of you that would like to get an attendance certificate today, you can do that by clicking on a link that's going to be available in the chat box. For those that are here in person, talk to us after we adjourn, and we'll talk to you guys about that. To receive your stand-up participation certificate from OSHA, go to the Stand Up website and recognize your participation tab. From here, you can share how you plan to celebrate Stand Up for Grain Safety Week. After submitting your ideas, you will receive a certificate that you can use for yourself and for your employees who will participate in the Stand Up for Safety grain initiatives this week. Again, check out that link so we can understand how this event will make an impact on our industry overall. And then there is going to be a very short survey that will pop up in your browser, again, for you that are joining online. Please complete this survey because it helps us plan for the future. Again, for those that are joining right now, I believe that survey is popped up in the chat box. Catherine just populated with that. Finally, at the end of the formal presentations today, we're going to invite you to, quote, ask the expert online. This is an opportunity to ask more questions and engage in direct conversation with all of the presenters. For the in-person audience, we invite you to make your way over to the Energy Farm. I believe it's literally right across the street, is it not? For those that are in person, if you go out the front gate, turn left. It literally is right across the street over there, where lunch is being provided to us by the Champaign County Farm Bureau. And also, we're going to be where's Brian Bothus over here? We're going to be celebrating him. Brian, my understanding is you've got about 24 hours left on the clock. You can do anything you want. Nobody can do anything about it. You can fire people, hire people. Nobody can do anything. You're a short timer. Man, that guy's he's a lucky dude, isn't he? This marks the end today of our formal presentation, so we thank you for joining us for the 2026 kickoff for Stand Up for Grain Safety Week. And at this point in time, we're going to open up the chat box for the Ask the Expert. So again, especially for those of you that were here in person, we appreciate your willingness to do the feed mill shuffle back and forth from room to room and participating with us today. So everybody online, I'm signing off for now. The chat box is open. Thanks everybody. Have a good day.